We are talking golf on Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, for another Monday night. It's the Cognizant Classic, formerly known as the Honda Classic, and it is the beginning of the Florida Swing for the 2026 season. Hope you've enjoyed our golf coverage so far. We have hit a few. We've missed a few. But Jacob Bridgman going off at 100-1 last week. One of our top long shots. We certainly hope you made off on Bridgman. He made it really, really interesting late, but he did hold on for the victory. And I'm pretty sure anybody out there that had one and done probably happy that Rory McIlroy didn't find his way into the playoff, because I mean, probably a few people might have had Rory in a signature event situation. Not sure many had Jacob Bridgman. Anyway, we're going to be talking about one and dones later on. We're also going to do our usual. We're going to take a look at the event, the trends, similar courses, the key stats that we need to look at this week for this event. But the bottom line that we have to go over here is that we're in now, the way the season goes on the PGA Tour, it has its ups and downs now. And you can say what you want about whether or not you prefer it this way, but look, we definitely get spoiled when we get the opportunity, like a couple of weeks, 2 straight weeks. I don't think there's a 3 straight week event scheduled this year as far as the signature events or a major, but we do get spoiled. And what happens is then when we have to come back off of our high from back-to-back week, the best players in the world getting together, this is the type of course we have to deal with. Now, the good news is it's not going to last long. As soon as we're done with this event, next week we go right back at it with the Arnold Palmer Invitational, another signature event. After that, you know what's coming up? Another signature event, the TPC, the Players Championship. Which is just amazing. After that, you've got 3 weeks. You finally have a major lull. And why not? It's deserved because it's going to ramp up the biggest event of the year, the Masters. You're going to have Valspar, Houston Open, and the Texas Open before we get to Augusta. So, but before we get to that lull, again, just keep in mind, after this week, it's still going to pick up back-to-back weeks of signature events, Bay Hill and TPC Sawgrass. So should be a lot of fun as always. This is going to be a real hard one. This week is the week, especially on one and dones, because we've talked about one and done regarding how it's very important. You don't always look at it as, I got to get a win. I got to get a win. A lot of it has to do with, because of the fact that 95% of the time you don't win, it's about making sure you have a good result. Stay away from missed cuts. Make sure you have some sort of points. Top 10s are awesome. Top 5s are better than that. And so this is the week, though, where because these weeks, again, I just talked about 3 weeks between the TPC event and Masters. We've got a 3-week layoff, and those are going to be 3 weeks that, now look, there will be some top players mixed in to those 3 events. Now, with back-to-back signatures, you would guess the Valspar will suffer the most, sort of like this week's event suffers the most after back-to-back signature events. Then the 2 Texas events, I'm going to guess we're going to get a pretty decent number of top players in one of the 2 and then the other. And there will be players that'll just take up the whole 3 weeks. I don't doubt that at all. But as far as this week's event, this is going to be a tough one. And matter of fact, it was already going to be tough. And then Ben Griffin withdrew and Adam Scott withdrew. Of course, Jacob Bridgman withdrew. That was not a big surprise. So we've already had 3, 4 cancellations. And we'll get into the odds in just a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about regarding the players who are favored now to win this event, and how difficult it is to handicap this event because in general, especially now that you don't have a lot of top players in it, those trends They're for real. So we're going to get into that in just a sec. So let's pop up this week's event. Why don't we? Okay, so here we go. PGA National Resort, the champion course. Bermuda greens. Now, we've already seen 3 courses with Bermuda greens this year. Sony. We had Phoenix. And what was the other one? Sony, Phoenix. Why am I not remembering the other one? Oh, the Amex. Sony, Phoenix, Amex, because they have multiple courses there. So we did have Bermuda. We have had it before, but we're back. And then we're going to see a lot of Bermuda now at this time of year on this coast. Okay, so there you go. 19 events. They've been at this layout, this situation here, since 2007. Let's now move on to a important aspect of our previews each week, and that is, what courses could you call similar to this layout? All right. That Pro Court Championship. It seems like every week we're talking about that one. But don't forget, when you're doing your research, you have this event changed its name several times, and those are the 4 different names on the board there. Procore, of course, just took over. I believe it was last year. The Rocket Classic, the Detroit Golf Club since 2019. Only the Canadian Open last year at TPC Toronto, and only the BMW Championship in 2024 at Castle Pines. So those are the only layouts those are the only single year dates that you want to be keeping an eye on regarding those layouts. Now, as far as stats and trends, I tell you what, let's pop up the trends first. Let's go to trend number 1. And because we're back to 2 pages because we got a lot of trends here, and these are important. We've talked about some recent events where, because the event turned into a signature event and it went from a regular field to a great field, the trends get mixed up a little bit, and deservedly so. But this week, as I mentioned, I think we can really dive into these trends just like it has always been at this golf course. All right, so as you can see there, the top one, I wouldn't worry too much about this, other than just to let you know that don't worry about who's out there. International, American player, it doesn't matter. Choose who you want. Nationality does not make a difference. Now, that one of those first ones, very important, as you can see there. Average number of appearances prior to winning the event. Okay, that's 3.8. That's not a lot, only 3.8. Check out the other one. Out of the 18, just about half, you only had 2 appearances. That's it. So the second appearance, almost 50% of the time, resulted in a winner. That's a pretty amazing stat. The longest was 12. So we had 12. We have a couple of 8s. And that's it. Then you have to go all the way down to 5. So you have a 12, 2 8s. There's a 3 out of the 18, meaning that 15 of the 18 are either 1 appearance or 4 appearances. 1 to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So that is something that I think correlates with what we're going to get into in just a minute. Check this out. As you can see there, Ernie Els, the only player to win here in his first appearance, and he did it the year after the first event in 2007. So it's kind of, it's not a perfect trend, but really what it's telling you is that it's pretty rare. It's really only happened once, and it was this. So it's kind of like you really do need to play here. And a couple of reasons why. One, because it's always been the beginning of the Florida swing, and you've always had some really good fields in Cali coming into the Florida swing, there has been a little bit of a lull with the field. But in recent, previous I mean, there was a good portion of years out of that 18, not the beginning portion, but I would say like to the third or fourth year for about 10 years, you'd still get, a pretty decent number of players. You'd get a few top 10s, a few top 20 players, that kind of stuff, because it's a very demanding golf course, very demanding golf course. So much so that, look, I think it's the type of course that you'd want to play at, to tell you the truth, to get your game going. But look, to each its own, right? It's a long course, but it's also a narrow course. It is not a course that really is set up for bombers. Not to say that you can't win if you're a power player, but man, there's so much water out there and bunkers and threats. And you have to deal with windy conditions. That is something that, matter of fact, I'd like to, I'm going to pop up the weather forecast right now. I should have done that before we got on the air, but weather is so important, and you need to definitely stay tuned to the weather. Let me see if I could get it up here, because when the wind is going to blow, if the wind is going to blow, and most of the time it does happen. And when it happens, it's usually later in the day. So this is, again, going to be one of those layout situations where more often, now again, this may not happen this year. I'm going to look at the weather forecast here, and there's wind. Okay, now it looks like the windiest days are the first 2 days. Now it could have been windier because the following week, the winds really pick up. So if this would have been played next week, you're talking 17, 18 mile an hour winds on average. At least this week, we're talking 14, 13. Okay, now what you're also going to have to, again, so remember, most of the wind, and there are going to be gusts. So you're going to be looking at average between 10 and 20. All right. And what normally happens as far as precipitation, there are going to be, unfortunately, thunderstorms in the area for Friday through Sunday. Now it says PM thunderstorms on Friday, which I hope, of course, we all hope that means pretty late in the day, and it won't happen early enough, and that would be great. So who knows? We'll see if we get lucky, get the first 2 rounds without a complication. But then into Saturday and Sunday, it's ranging from 35 to 60% chance of isolated thunderstorms. But at least it's not going to just be raining, which right now won't happen until Monday. And I think it could all change. We're talking Monday this week. So stay tuned to the weather forecast. Very important at this location. Very important. And again, the reason why I'm not even going to make my final picks until tomorrow when I see the tee times. Really, as far as not my final picks, but where I'm going to invest the most in, and in one and done, until I see that weather forecast, which I have now done. And also, most importantly, I want to see the tee times. So I want tee times. I prefer the tee times. It's not exact. Look, there's a couple of players I like, and I'm just going to like them no matter what. But I want the late, early tee time. Okay, and again, and you can see this even from past history. It's just been the deal. It's one of the situations where it's not a big deal. For instance, if I've said this before, if you can have wind on both days, and the windy conditions usually occur as the day goes on at this location, it's always better to do it Thursday, come right back in on Friday. That's where you have the best weather. Score, come in, and watch the players fighting, trying to get in, make the cut. It's later in the day. Now the windy conditions are up. Whereas if you're dealing with the windy conditions on Thursday, it's just a little bit easy to manage coming right back on Friday. Just the way that it is. I'm not a Hall of Fame golfer like Jan Stevenson, but this is what Jan has always instructed me to do and pay attention to. And so that's what I'm going to do. So, but again, keep in mind, it is not an exact science, like nothing is. when it comes to handicapping golf. Okay. Also, as far as let's move over to the trends now to our second page. All right, here. And then we're going to get into the stats too in just a bit. So here, you see that the average world ranking of the 19 winners is 114. How about that? And look at that. 10 of the 19 winners ranked outside the top 100. And Joe Highsmith, the defending champ, what was he last year? 170. So we've had winners. Look at that. Look at those numbers for the winners. Look at that. All the way up to 460. So that is no joke. Now I don't even know if I have out of my top 5 picks. I don't know if I have any players in the hundreds, but that doesn't mean I'm not putting money on it because I am. And we'll go over the list of players that I'm going to definitely put money on that rank in the hundreds, 100, 200, so forth. Interesting that no one has ever won this event twice at PGA National. How about that? 5 of the last 7 winners did not, this is important. I don't have this on the list here, but 5 of the last 7 winners did not post a previous top 25 here. And 3 of the last 7 winners missed the cut in their only appearance, including the last 2. So meaning that the last 2 winners played here the first time, missed the cut, and then the very next year they won. Happened 2 straight years. Miscut, win, miscut, win. Interesting. But the bottom line is you don't have to have prior positive results here in order to win. And that's not a surprise considering the long shots that win here. When long shots win here, everything just stats, research, all this is thrown out the door. And that's unfortunate. But it's going to happen at least 3 times a year, at least. Since we started this in January till we end this at the Tour Championship, it's going to happen 3 times. I'm not even sure if it might have even happened already once. But it's going to happen where you're going to see a player that's going to win and you're going to go, how did... Now, look, Morikawa definitely came out of nowhere, but he's a world-class player. But I'm talking about Joe Highsmith. That's what I'm talking about. Where now, but it's not easy to find those guys. It's just not, because you have to kind of, you hope that if it's going to be a long shot, that there's some reason for it. And I'm telling you right now that most of the time there's not. But we're still going to do our best and hope that if a long shot does pay out, that there's a reason for it that we were able to find out, and it hopefully will come through for us. This is the last one, 8 of the 19 winners and 5 of the last 7 broke their maiden PGA here. So, and again, telling you that you do not even have to have a prior PGA win. You can be a player that has a long shot number that's never won on the PGA Tour before and that's never had a whole lot of success here at this golf course. It's not going to be easy, my friends, but we'll do our best. Let's now take a look at the main players. And as we do that, I'm going to talk about the stats that you want to keep an eye on. Again, as I said, this is not a huge fairway deal with the water and so forth. You got hazards there. You want to be accurate. All right. So maybe another reason why you usually don't see bombers here. They just don't see the reason. It's just not a golf course that fits them. But you need to be accurate. And also because when you are going to be dealing with the hazards of again, you can't take a scuba gear and hit the ball out of the water, so there is no stat for that. But you are going to be dealing with bunkers, and you are going to have to scramble your ass off because sometimes you're going to hit the ball in the water. And so you're going to have to do a good job in this event of when you get in a little bit of trouble, you can get yourself out of it. So that's very important. So accuracy, scrambling, bunker play, par three is very important. If you take a look at the recent winners, many of them, the ones that have contended for wins, have had really good scoring on par threes. Okay, because I think there's only 2 par fives here. So it's really one of the harder par three layouts as far as whatever number there are, whatever. And I should have looked that up, but again, I know there's more than the usual, and they are tough. All right, so being good on the par threes, strokes gained par three averages, very, very important. And putting also going to be very important this week as well. Again, the whole short game, the accuracy and the short game, very important here, which again, maybe another reason why you don't see like the star-studded new model player. You know, this isn't their type of golf course. But you know, it is what it is. Okay. Let's say, okay, we got the group up. So let's get into it. And there you go. There's your favorites. And I say this, look, I've been doing this for a while. And one of the things that I've said consistently about this, and by the way, Eli, I don't know if you're new to the show, but we are placing bets. Bets will be placed. I've already placed a few bets, by the way. I don't know what everybody has a different strategy of how you want to place bets. I'm going to give you a tip here. If you've, I don't know what kind of experience everybody has, but depending on the sports book, it's always important to have multiple sports books. Always. You don't want to get stuck with one sports book because you want that second sports book to work out where you're getting a break from in certain sports like golf. I can tell you right now, the book I use, Bovada, I like them a lot for a lot of things they provide me. BetOnline's another one I use. BetOnline gives you much better odds in golf on Monday. Bovada, you usually 90% of the time have got to wait. Don't wager on your golf picks at Bovada on Monday because by late Tuesday, I shouldn't say late. They usually don't change the odds very much on Tuesday. You wake up on Tuesday, you'll see better odds for, I'll tell you right now, for most of the golfers you're probably looking at, you're going to get better odds. And then Wednesday, you're going to get, I think, even better. I think the biggest jump is probably Monday to Tuesday. But if you're still not satisfied, just wait. Wait until Wednesday. And then don't worry about waiting until Wednesday night because it's not going to change much late in the day on Wednesday. But I've already placed a few bets on BetOnline. Matter of fact, there was a difference on BetOnline where I was able to get like a golfer at, I don't know, 20 points better. I think, I don't remember which one it was. Like somebody was like 80-1. I remember Jason Day last week. It was like 75-1 on BetOnline. He was 50-1 on Bovada on Monday. Now that's extreme, but it does happen. And I know your sports book, everybody uses a different book, but just keep that in mind. Don't go crazy early unless you think you've got a bargain. And sometimes it does happen. Sometimes what I like to do is I use DraftKings first because DraftKings is kind of, that's not a reliable site for gamblers as opposed to fantasy. It isn't, but it does give me a way to gauge the like, for instance, if I have a player that they say is 30-1, and I go to BetOnline, chances are BetOnline, their odds will be the same or better, and Bovada will be shorter. So what I do with Bovada is if I know that DraftKings has got a player at 30-1 and I've got 22-1 at Bovada, then I know I can wait it out because it's going to move up to close to 30-1, if not more. So that's why I kind of use DraftKings with almost like it's a gauge. So then because it doesn't always happen, but a lot it does. So anyway, taking a look at these picks. Now, one of the things that I always do at these types of events is I will not take the favorite. Religiously, I've never done it, and I've never lost to the favorite. The favorite in these types of fields hardly ever win. Now, what's the reason for it? I think it's simple. I think it's these players aren't used to being in this spot. I don't care what level it is. Now, of course, it's a lot easier lower levels. I get it. But once you're up with the big boys in the PGA Tour, and what levels I really mean is, like the Puerto Rico Open, which will be played the same week as the Arnold Palmer, that sort of thing. So not a big field, but I'll tell you right now, who's ever favored in that Puerto Rico Open, I'm not touching. Matter of fact, those are more volatile. Those I'll never touch any of the players that are considered the favorites. But even in these types of events where it's a normal field, it's not terrible, but it's not great. I mean, Ryan Gerard and Shane Lowry are the favorites. When are they ever favorites to win a PGA Tour event? They're just not. So because of that, not going to do it. Now, if I had to choose between the two, I'd take Shane Lowry. Lowry, it's one of these situations where you do feel that Shane's not one of those players that wins a lot of events. But if he does win a few more PGA Tour events that are not majors or signature events, this has got to be at the top of the list. This is one of his best setups. He's 8 for 8 in cuts. 4 of those are top 15s. Matter of fact, if you look at it, his first 4 appearances here, he was a combined 15 over par. His last 4 appearances here, he's a combined 44 under par. That's how good this layout's been. He's got 4 straight top 15s, including 3 top 5s and a runner-up. So Shane Lowry is definitely a player that I am still considering for one and done. And now it's not going to be my one and done pick tonight, but I am going to consider it. And again, one of the things I want to look at are the tee times tomorrow. But he's up there. Remember we talked about 2 on one and done, that sometimes you want to avoid taking the player that you think everybody's going to take. Because again, this is golf. Just look at Scotty Scheffler the last few weeks. So anything can happen. And that's one of the reasons why, as of today, I don't have Shane Lowry as one of my one and done picks, but he is definitely under consideration as one of the top 4 or 5 that I still might go with. Again, I'm waiting for those tee times. Shane is also going through a nice run. 7 straight top 30s, 5 top 15s, and 2 runner-ups. But again, unfortunately, what really did it for me, as I said, he is the co-favorite of this event. It's something I never do. That's why if I'm doing anything with Shane Lowry, it's one and done, and it's not. Because I remember I have 2 one and dones. But if it's one and done, I'll go ahead and go that way with him in one of them. But I just can't take him to win the event at 16-1 as the favorite. There's a lot to like about him, though, here. Again, it's a setup that works, and he would not be a surprise at all. And you know what? He probably should be the favorite of this event. Okay. Next up, you see Ryan Gerard there. And I'd be a lot more tentative, without a doubt, to take Ryan Gerard here. He doesn't have the pedigree at all that Shane Lowry does, but he has played well here. He's played here 3 times, and he has 2 top 25s and a top 5. So he's done really well here. Believe it or not, he's the highest ranked player in the field. Actually, no, he's not. Why did somebody say he's the highest ranked player in the field? Yeah, I don't know why they said that. I don't know. Maybe they didn't realize the Højgaard brothers were playing. No, not the Hoy. That's right. Those aren't the right numbers. Yeah, I got that. Those are wrong. I don't know why I had that like that. Yeah, they are not those odds. So they were right. That's Højgaard, I think. And I think Rasmus is, I think, about 48. And I think Nikolai might be about 52. Let me check it out here. Let's see. There's the main group. Let's see. Rasmus is 48 and Nikolai 55. 48 and 55. Where is my thing? There it is. 55 and 48. Okay. I'm going to get this right. All right. So hold on one sec. Okay. So Lowry and Gerard, again, Gerard, if you look at it, the thing that I'm worried about the most is his putting on Bermuda. He hasn't been putting well on Bermuda. And his last two events, he kind of came back down to life. Didn't really register. Nothing great. The one thing you do have to consider, though, is those were big events. Those were big fields. He doesn't have to deal with those types of fields now. The previous 4 events before he played the 2 signature events and stepped up in major competition, he was 11th, 2nd, 2nd, and 2nd. So, yeah, you can look at it like that and say, well, yeah, now he's in a sort of like horse racing. He's in the right class now. And because of that, I'm going to go back to Ryan Gerard. So, look, I would consider him. But again, I'm not going to do that as the co-favorite of a PGA Tour event. Wait a second. I didn't want to do that. Here it is. Now, this is what I want to do. And let me bring this over here. And it's silly for me to do this, but because I've already told you. But I just want to get it right. And there it is. Okay. Now it's right just before I change it. So Nikolai, like I said, 55 and Rasmus 48. But I am going to spend more time on this because there are players here for sure that are worth taking. And these 3 are definitely 3 of them. Nikolai and Rasmus. Matter of fact, I like the idea of taking both brothers. All you got to do is get one brother to win. And if you look at it, Rasmus is trying to be the 3rd straight winner of this event after missing the cut in his first appearance. The main issue with both of these brothers will be accuracy. They haven't been the most accurate drivers so far this season. But outside of that, they're both playing excellent golf. Rasmus has made 7 straight cuts, 5 on the PGA Tour. 6 of those are top 30s overall, 3 top 15s, and a top 5. The putting is headed in the right direction. He's also really good on par 3 scoring. Nikolai, meanwhile, also solid on par 3 scoring, top 10 in scrambling overall. And he has a run of 6 top 25s in his last 7 worldwide with 3 top 5s. The last time we saw him play, he was 3rd in Phoenix. And he's had a few weeks off while some of these players have not. But a lot of these players have had a little bit of time off. Anyway, Nikolai played here twice. He missed a cut like his brother did the first appearance. He did that 4 years ago, though. Missed the last couple of years, played here last year, and finished 18th at 12 under par. So that is a good sign. And again, Nikolai, I think, is the more talented of the 2. If you've been watching us for a while, you know I'm a big fan of Nikolai's. Matter of fact, we talked about him a couple of years ago when he really did start playing on the PGA Tour with Jan Stevenson. Went over some really good, like that. Who's the next generation of players from overseas that we need to keep an eye on? And Nikolai was at the top of the list. This is a kid who's got immense talent. So does his brother, and it's just a matter of time. Staying in the U.S., you got Thor Bjornsson coming off a 39th last year in his first appearance here. And the other thing that I think you want to look at, statistically speaking, that is on his side would be he's been okay. He's been better than average in scrambling and sand save percentage. So that's good. Nothing great, though. But what also is good is that his putting has been if you're looking at like where you want your putting to work on this layout, on these greens, it's between 4 and 8 feet and 10 and 15 feet. And he's actually been pretty good. If you look at it, he's actually been better in those statistics than he had overall in putting on Bermuda. But look, I think the par 3 scoring is probably the thing that works against him the most. He has had problems on the par 3s this year. The reason I'm gonna not get too involved in a lot of these stats that we're going to talk about is, again, because of the field, because of the volatility of anybody can win at any time on this golf course. But you definitely, I'm going to use the stats almost like in this particular situation where, hey, if I'm interested in a player and there's a couple of reasons why, and then the stats all of a sudden are really good, well, then, hey, you know what? I'm definitely going to pick them, or I'm going to put some money on them. But there are going to be some players that I'm going to look at the stats and I'm not overly excited. But what I'm looking at with Thor Bjornsson is I'm looking at a really good player, and I'm looking at a really good player on a golf course that I think is going to be okay for him. I don't think there's anything that says that he can't figure this thing out. And matter of fact, if you look at the thing that really also sticks out for him, he's had last year 2 really good results at similar golf courses. He was 4th at the Rocket Classic and 13th at the Procore. So that's good. Plus, even though he struggled at Pebble a couple of weeks ago, prior to that, he had 4 top 20s in his last 8 with a couple of top 5. So he really was starting to play well, and then just had a little bit of a hiccup at Pebble Beach. But that is a completely different situation in the field and in the layout. So, look, these 5 players, and I usually have 8 players, but it's the field we're dealing with. So these 5 players, I really do feel these are the class 5 of this field. Any of these 5 could be the favorite when it all comes down to it on Thursday morning. They really could. A lot's going to depend on which way the money flows here. If I had to guess which one could come from the bottom 3 to the top, it would be Nikolai. And see, this is one of the situations where I've already done research. I like to do that. I like to see where people are feeling out their own picks. And it does seem like there's a lot of people who are on the Nikolai Højgaard bandwagon. And I think that could be scary. That could be scary bad. You don't want everybody on the bandwagon. That's like a handicapping a deal that I think we all are familiar with. So that does, but again, that's why I think his odds could end up getting low. So tell you the truth, if you can get him at 20-1 right now, just go for it. Get him at 20-1. If you even get him at 18-1, I think you might as well do it, because I could see him go down to 16-1. Okay. So there you go. That's the main group. Now let's head over to the top contenders. And let's see. Again, not as big as the list we had on the show last week in the signature event, but still, we have a few notable names here: Brooks Koepka, Daniel Berger, and Will Zalatoris. And what's interesting is Brooks Koepka and Will Zalatoris, you see their rankings. Well, their rankings are right where we want them this week, aren't they? 252 and 263. That's about right for this event. Look, it's real tempting to go down that road, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I've already seen people kind of go down that road with their picks this week, and it's like, come on, it's just name recognition more than anything. If I was going to decide which way to go, I might go with Will, because I'm getting more odds. And Will's actually, if you throw out, let's see, his last performance, he's only played 3 times since his 7-month layoff. He had 2 top 20s out of his 3. So that's fine. He hasn't played since the Farmers Insurance when he missed the cut, but he had an 18th at Amex and a 15th overseas. And there are a few stats that work out well. But he's never played here, though. All right. So you do have to worry about that. Whereas Brooks has played here and has had success. He was runner-up in 2019. Only one of the top 20, though. But the problem with Brooks is if you take a look at just his last couple of appearances, 56th and a missed cut. The missed cut at Phoenix. And remember, there was a lot of people thinking he was going to do well at Phoenix because that's a major layout for Brooks. That's like one of his best layouts, and he missed the cut. And I know he's working with another putter, and there's a lot of things he's working on. And Brooks has always been a player about the big events. Always been that way. So that's why I probably pass on Brooks as a long shot. Plus, I'm not getting long shot money. I'm getting 28-1 at a 263rd ranked player. And I know why he's where he is with the ranking, but bottom line is 28-1 is just no value. At least I'm getting something of value with Will. All right. So that's why, again, I'm not saying either one of them are worth if you have a top 5 or anything like that, but they are interesting. And again, the big numbers definitely are what would invite me in. Now, Keith Mitchell, boy, if there's a player on tour that I would be the most frightened of with the lead going into the final round, it's Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell is just a player that loves to get off to great starts and loves to choke on Sundays. So I just could never, I can't ever take Keith Mitchell. Keith might win another couple times before it's all said and done in his career. But he's also going to play about another 100 times. And if he's going to beat me, he's going to beat me. But I'm just, if I'm going to take, I'll tell you what, if I'm going to take Keith Mitchell, I'm going to do it on live betting on a Sunday when he's behind. Like if there's some reason that I think based on what I've seen for those first 3 days that he can pull off a comeback, I will then do that with Keith Mitchell. But I'm never taking Keith Mitchell going into Sunday. I'm just not with the lead. I'm just not going to do it. He's won this event before in 2019. Okay. Now, taking a look at the rest, Daniel Berger, you would think that Daniel Berger is another player that is going to end up winning this event. He has 5 top 30s and 9 appearances. Of course, we all remember his very first appearance when he lost in a playoff to Padraig Harrington. It was a nice little story there. You had the major champ, who was playing in this event, which was a big deal. And then having it was like the American local kid that was making good. It was a really nice story, but he lost in the playoff to Padraig. And he was 25th last year. He does have 3 top 5s, including that playoff runner-up. But he hasn't been playing well. His last 2 appearances, not very good, including missing the cut last week. But at some point, I think Daniel Berger is a good play here. Smalley is somebody that is intriguing for a couple of reasons. One, he has a good trend line in his 3 appearances here, including 18th last year. And he's got a good trend line on the season. So, for instance, the last time he played here, he was 18th. The last time he played on tour this year, he was 19th. But the problem is the stats don't really work. So once again, this is one of those players that at 119th in the rankings could very well be a good fit here. Because as I mentioned before, you're just going to have to throw out the stats sometimes. And this is a good week to do that because he's not all that good on par 3s. He's not really good with the putter. There's a lot not to like, but there are a few things that would make sense if he pulled it off. So the good thing is you are getting 38 to 40-1. So that is not bad. Also, Aaron Rice played here twice, combined 12 over par. So that was a different player a few years ago, but definitely one of these players that if he wins is going to be, hey, see, he never had good experience here before. I guess that fits. But I don't see anything that really works for me. He's just, I don't know if he's the right fit, 32nd in the world. I don't see anything there. The good thing is on his favor, he's an accurate, ball striker and that's good. The problem is, the putter. So the putter is not working out for him on Bermuda. And he's also not very good so far this season in scrambling. So a few things that are just not working out for me with Aaron Rai. Then you have a couple other players here. Max McGreevy. Where's Max? Max McGreevy was fourth here last year at 16 under par. So that definitely sticks out. His first two appearances, he missed the cut twice, 15 over par. So typical PGA National player. He is an accurate player, just like Aaron Rai. But also like Aaron Rai, not very good at scrambling. At least Rai's pretty good as a sand bunker player. McGreevy, not so much. And here's the other thing. This year, he has played 6 times, no top 20s, and he hasn't taken any time off. This will be his 7th straight week. So the kid's got to get tired at some point. But here's a player that I do like as a long shot, even though he's barely a long shot. He's more like a top contender here, and that would be Bezuidenhout. Christian Bezuidenhout. I probably keep saying his name five times, 5 different pronunciations, but this is one of the players that really looks good with the formula that we're going to use this week, the stats, the trends, and so forth. He's one of the best, actually. If you look at it, he has played well in Florida. It's been a good situation for him whenever he plays, the Florida swing. He's good at scrambling. He's done pretty well in the bunkers. And most importantly, he's been really good putting in Bermuda. Okay, so Bermuda grass, he's been good at. He's been good at 4 to 8, 10 to 15, you name it. He's been good at. Now he's coming off a miscut at Phoenix. That was the last time he played a few weeks ago. I'm not worried about that because the previous 7 events he played, he had 4 top 10s. So overall, he has some good numbers coming in result-wise. The stats are really good for this setup. I also like the fact that he's 89th in the world. So I think that really works out too. But anyway, Christian Bezuidenhout at 40 to 1, I think is a nice contender / long shot to go with. Speaking of long shots, all right, here are the main long shots on the board. And I think we have like 15 of them this week. Hao Tung's never played here. So he's going to have to be that Ernie Els type of deal. He's never played here. Just like Bezuidenhout, he missed the cut in his last event at Phoenix. But pretty much like Bezuidenhout, in his previous 5 events coming into Phoenix, he had 4 top 15s, including 3 top 10s. So again, I'm not worried about Phoenix then. But we talked about Hao Tung early in the year. He's really starting to play well. And this is his first venture into the PGA Tour as a full-timer. And so far, so good. He's an accurate hitter. He's got good stats, scrambling around the bunkers. And if you look at it, he's also been improving with the putter. Now, it's still an issue compared to other players, but he has been getting better on Bermuda. And he's got also a couple other things that I noticed that works. The one thing that really works against him is he's never played here, and he hasn't done really well on the par 3s. Some other players here. Let's just run through these other players. Max Homa, much better in California than in Florida. And that's just the deal. He's just never been a really good Florida player. I don't know what else to tell you. He is trending in the right direction, and he was 20th in his last appearance here in 2019. Other than that, I just don't see it. Also on this list here, let's go with. Tell you what, let me go with Patrick Rodgers. Patrick Rodgers is 55 to 1, and he's played here 9 times, just 2 top 25s. He was 18th last year, and he's one of these players. We're looking also for players maybe that have never won before, and Patrick hasn't. So Patrick definitely overdue to win. But he's not accurate, not an accurate player, though he has done well on par 3, so that's nice. Also, he's had a couple of good results in the Procore event, but that was a few years back, so I'm not overly excited about it. He is trending in the right direction, but he hasn't really been contending for events lately. He's playing better. The last few months he's done well, and maybe what he just needs is to play in a field like this where he doesn't have to worry about a lot of top caliber players. So I think he's intriguing, definitely. I'm not sure he's the right setup guy. A lot of experience here usually doesn't work for whatever reason. And again, also not very accurate. Okay. Next up, let's talk about, Let's talk about Garrick Higgo, because I mentioned him earlier in the season that I really like Higgo. He's a player that I think is got the talent to take a big step at some point. He hasn't been playing very well to start the season. Now, I don't know if he's trying new things or anything like that. What it could just be is now he's playing with the big boys. And I think that could have a lot to do with it. Because he's missed 3 or 4 cuts. But I bring him up because this is a good golf course for him. He's played here 3 times. He's been a lot better in his other 2 appearances. So he gets off to a terrible start, 7 over par, then goes to 3 under par and 11 under par in his last appearance. So I do think this is a good this is the type of setup that's worked for Garrick Higgo before. These types of fields, this is the type of situation. But I'm looking at this as, I'm not picking him. I'm just looking, this is going to be a good gauge for me for Garrick. Because if he plays well this week, then I'm looking at it and saying, yeah, it's definitely about the competition. But if he still continues to struggle, then I do have to look at it as, he's probably tinkering with some stuff. And I'll probably be a while before I even think about picking him. All right, Doug Gim. Now, here's a long shot that you should definitely keep an eye on, because he is, take a look at this. He's played here 5 times. In his first 3 appearances, he missed a cut, all 3. And he was a combined 20 over par. Then the last 2 years he played here, top 20s in both years, and a combined 24 under par. So he basically has improved every time he's played here. And he has 3 top 30s at the Pro Tour, including a 19th at the Rocket Classic last year. Now, this year, he hasn't really done much. Hasn't played in a few weeks either. But he did end the year last year with a 13th and a 7th. So again, those were not big fields. Then he starts this year. He's in bigger competition, doesn't do as well. But now he's in a field that may suit him on a course he's had success at the last couple of years. So he's definitely an interesting long shot. Stats-wise, though, the best that he has going for him, which is good, is his putter. So he's gotten better recently on putting, but it's just recently. So it's not like he's like this great putter. It's just that he's gotten a little bit better recently, but he's also had some struggles like at the par 3, scrambling, things of that nature. I wouldn't worry about all that. I just think he's one of those shot-in-the-dark long shots that you need to keep an eye on for what the reasons I explained. Tom Kim, boy, he fall off the face of the planet, but maybe he's getting ready to start playing better now because he's made 8 straight cuts. The only problem is no top 10s during that time period, just 1 top 30. But he's made cuts. So in an event like this, I'd be interested to see if he can find his way into contention over the weekend. Eric Cole was somebody that I really wanted to bet this week. And I would have if it was a few weeks ago. But all of a sudden, Eric had a good thing going and he's kind of stalled that momentum. Also, not a very accurate driver at all. He's one of the worst accurate drivers in this field, to tell you the truth. But the putter has really been working for him on Bermuda. And that's the thing that looks good. Plus, he was in a playoff. He lost to Chris Kirk 3 years ago in his first appearance here. So he tried to pull an Ernie Els, winning here in his very first appearance. What has he done since then? Missed the cut. That's life at PGA National. Yes, that's life. You don't know when you're going to miss a cut or score a top 5 or a win. All right. Also in this group, let's get some long shots that I really like. And that's Christopher Ventura, the Norwegian at 80-1. I think he really works well here. He is somebody that a couple of stats that really work well for him. He's a good scrambler and a really good putter on Bermuda. He was 56th last year in his second appearance. Obviously, he missed the cut the first time. And he also has some good results at some of the other golf courses, the Procore event, the Rocket Classic event. He was 22nd at Farmers. It's the last time we saw him. So that's a good one, top 25 at Farmers. And he's been in the cut 6 of his last 7, and all 6 of those are top 35s. So keep that in mind. Chris Ventura, when he's been making cuts, he has put himself on at least the second or third page of the leaderboard. And I think the way he's playing in this particular field, he is not a bad long shot. Also, another long shot you need to keep an eye on is Sun Yu Kim. That's, in other words, S.H. Kim. Keep an eye on him. I think he's a really good long shot this week. Like Bezuidenhout, he has one of the best stats that I modeled out for this week. Fairly accurate, fairly good on the par 3s, good scrambler, good in the bunkers, and more importantly, really good putting on Bermuda. There's nothing stat-wise that he doesn't do well here. Not one thing. All right. Now, what's working against him, he's played here twice, never had a top 50, but we don't care about that here. Also, he knows how to win. He's got 4 professional wins overseas. He's not a young kid, so he's got experience. This is basically him trying to, can he take that next step? Can he be a top 100 player or better? Well, he's got to win on the PGA Tour for that to happen, but he's made 9 straight cuts worldwide. 7 of those are top 20s. And he started working on the PGA Tour full-time this year. Okay, now, the first couple events, both top 20s. That's really good. The last couple events, not so good, but at least he made the cut. He also was runner-up in the Procore event in 2023. Runner-up at one of the similar events that we spoke about. So I think it's a lot to like long shot wise for someone like Sun Yu Kim. Billy Horschel is always interesting in Florida because he plays well in Florida, and he's played well here. He has 3 top 10s out of 13, 1 top 5. And the last 2 years he's played here, he's finished 25th and 9th. He's not playing well, though. But in this field at 80-1, he's definitely worth mentioning. Taylor Moore. I think Taylor Moore this might be a good time to start paying attention to Taylor Moore again. Of course, his only win is at Valspar, so it's the state, it's the time of year, and he's a better player than the way he's been playing. If you look at it in this setup, he missed the cut the first time he played here, a 7 over par. Comes back a few years later, last year, 8 under par, 42nd. He's been pretty good on the par 3s. He's been really good scrambling. So there are some nice stats to work with. And he also has 3 top 10s at the Rocket Classic, one of the similar courses we spoke about. Now, he's only played this year twice. Okay. And at least he made the cut both times, even though neither were top 40s. He's coming up from 49th at the Farmers Insurance. But again, just there's a lot to be intrigued about with Taylor Moore. Might be one of those players because he has such a big number to just see, how does he get off to? Does he get off to a good start? Does he get top 10, top 20? Because even if he's a top 10, top 20, he's still going to be 50-1 or higher. So that's what I probably would do. And then maybe I'd jump on him if I kind of feel that way. Okay. Also, long shot, another good one. Matthias Schmid, another player that Jan Stevenson mentioned on this network a few years ago, an up-and-comer, and he's made some noise, mostly in the fall. But if you look at it, what did he do the first 2 times he played here? He missed the cut both times. Last year, he finished 18th at 12 under par, 4 over par the first 2 years. So typical PGA National player. Couple of things not working. Really, most of the stats are not working for him. Okay, let's just say it. That's why I'm not picking him as a long shot this week, like an official long shot. I'll throw money on him, but it's not an official long shot because the stats are just not working out for him. But the one stat that is working out for him, the only stat, is the putter. He's been really good putting on Bermuda. Okay. So everything, he's one of the best statistical putters in this field, actually. With everything we're looking for, just Bermuda putter. We told you about the distance and all that. He's also trending slowly in the right direction, even though they're not big results, but 73rd to 49th. The 49th was last week. So, yes, this is one of those players I talked about. Throw out some of the stats. But there are a couple of things to like, and I think he's one of these long shots you need to keep an eye on. Another long shot to keep an eye on, our last player to talk about here before we move on to our picks, is Andrew Putnam. Andrew Putnam may be a really good long shot to take. He was 11th last year here, and you want to know what he did the first 2 times he played here? I think we know the deal now, right? What did he do? He missed the cut. So he missed the cut twice, 22 over par combined. What did he do a few years later when he came back here last year? 13 under par, finishing 11th. Now, this is what I really like. Couple other things I like, not just the 11th last year, but last year, besides the 11th, on similar courses, he finished 6th in Canada and 8th at the Rocket Classic. So 3 of his best results last year happened on these types of golf courses. Now, he's coming off a miscut at Farmers Insurance, but what did he do the event before that? Runner-up at the Amex. That's as good as it gets for Andrew Putnam. Now, what also was there to like? He's number 1 overall on the PGA Tour in accuracy. So there's just a lot of nice things to like about Andrew Putnam, including, of all, 100 to 1. Those are his odds. All right. So that is that. Now we are going to head on over to our picks. So where are they? Let's go here. Those are our official picks. So we're going with Thor Bjornsson, Rasmus, and Nikolai. And by the way, just so you know, Nikolai's 3rd because I just feel safer that way, 3rd. I don't want to jump on the bandwagon with everybody else. So I'll because, hey, a win's a win. Also, there's Christian and SH, Kim, as the big long shot at 90 to 1. So yeah, overall, again, this is a long shot course, no doubt about it. And if you just want to, if we're just going for the long shots with the big, the world golf rankings and all that, let's see, where are the contenders? So you're looking at, you got Koepka, even though the odds, but hey, the numbers are all that matters. The 263. You got Koepka, you got Smalley. And look, not every player has to be over 100 to 1. Matter of fact, if you look at it, when I was, let's pop up that stat. I don't know what trend that is. Is it here? Yeah, there it is. So even though you see all of those big numbers, there's also numbers like 47, 34, 14, 13, 21. And then you've got real low numbers. The lowest numbers you have are 4 twice and 2nd once. A top-ranked player has never won this event, these in 19 years. But there you go. So it can, so again, even though the average is where it is at 114, last year was 170. So let's see. What do I have? Who's my pick? My top picks. So let me pop that back up. Where's my picks? So there's my top pick. So Thor Bjornsson, he's 50th in the world. So what's 170 divided by, let's see, get that there. So if we're looking at 170 and 50, actually, I don't even think I need that. It's 110. Yeah, it's 110. So so it's 110. And what's the average again? 114. So doesn't that work out really well? So in other words, Highsmith's 170 last year. Well, how do I get back to the 114? Well, you get a player that is somewhere around Thorbjornsen at 50, or Højgaard that's 55, or Rasmussen, Nikolai that's 55, or Rasmussen that's 48. So I think that's perfect. I didn't even realize that until now. So I feel even better. And then you got the long shots. So those were I just want to go through that. I went through the contenders. So again, those would be the ones I think that are the best. Koepka, Smalley, Bezuidenhout, and even Zalatoris. Why not? And then with the long shots, the real long shots, I think, Rogers is nice at 82. I don't know if Tom Kim would win an event. I don't know about that, but he's not talented enough. But yeah, you know what? You got Kim, you got Gim, Ventura. I really like Ventura as a long shot. There's Kim, Putnam, Moore, and Schmidt. So we have enough long shots at your disposal to make your mind which way you want to go. And again, this is what I'm going with today on one and dones. So I'm going to go with Thorbjornsen and Nikolai. Now, again, I'm going to go with Nikolai over Rasmus because look, I don't know if I'm ever going to pick Rasmus in a one and done. Nikolai, I would do that because, again, I really, Nikolai is the more talented of the two in my mind. And even Thorbjornsen is that talented type player. So, but what I would say is other players that I'm going to consider for one and done. If you can look at it, I think Shane Lowry is probably one of those other players that has to be near the top. I wouldn't do Gerard here. I really don't. I don't like the way he's played the last couple of weeks. But I'd probably go, besides these two, I'm going to also consider, I will consider Rasmus, but I probably wouldn't go that way because I already have his brother. So what I would do is I'd probably just include Lowry. And again, what I'm talking about is I'm waiting for the tee times. So I'm going to go with Lowry, Thorbjornsen, and Nikolai as my top three. And I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if Rasmus will make a top four. I can't throw him out. It is a possibility. So we'll see how tee times look tomorrow afternoon. So, I would venture to guess that the tee times are going to be available earlier tomorrow. So we're on the East Coast now. Remember that. So a lot of the tee times won't be as late in the day for anyone on the East Coast. So, everything that you were thinking about the last month with times and stuff, just change, put that in your head and realize that things are going to start picking up a lot earlier in the day, including tee time. So I think we probably should know sometime, maybe late morning, what the tee times are for Thursday. And hopefully the odds will change on my websites, on my sports books, and I'll be able to put money on my players. And I certainly hope you guys do the same. And I certainly hope you guys make out as always. So if you ever have any questions regarding anything, matchup players, things like that, one and done, anything at all regarding stats, important information that you need in order to make your own picks, just let me know. And I will definitely be here to respond. Of course, we really appreciate you subscribing to the channel, as well as everything else like liking and sharing. All that stuff is really cool. This guy, just for whatever reason, has a blank sign, and I guess I'm supposed to fill that in, but yeah, I don't know what he's doing. He's a nutball. That's what happens when you're just a golf ball. Oh, you know what? Look at this. Wait a second. Where is this one? He's on this one. I got to figure out why this happened. It probably just didn't translate in my transparent. Wait a second. Yeah, I have to figure out how did that happen. Yeah, check this out. Where is it? Well, you've been watching it because all of these have the same thing. You see him? Look at him up there. Wait, I'm not showing you now. Hold on. Let me get a bigger one. Okay, so look at this. Subscribe. And then for some reason, it looked like he actually had, start it over again. Look at this. Look, it looks like he actually flips it over. Look at that. See, he has subscribed. And what is that? That's really weird. That's a weird game he's playing. Doesn't make any sense. Okay. Anyway, the rest of our schedule this week. Tomorrow we have our NASCAR show at 4:00. We're going to talk about the first road course race of the season with CJ Redoon from RotoWire. And then I think that's it. That's right. Because on Wednesday, Jim Feist is going to now start his Wednesday shows from home. So they're moving away from Dom DeMarco's for a couple of months, and that show will remain. We're going to record it every Tuesday, and we will post it every Wednesday at 3 Eastern. And then, of course, we have our playbook show on Thursdays. We're talking basketball now, and the college basketball show with me on Friday nights. And, of course, my football interviews are still going to be available. This week, we have a 4:00 on Friday to talk about the LA Chargers. And I don't know whether or not we have anything else lined up. I don't think we have anything lined up so far. But, we also have a big horse racing show on Thursday because we have three Kentucky Derby prep races this weekend. So a lot of big Derby prep races are coming up, and we're going to be talking about all of them on our horse racing coverage every Thursday. And we have a lot more coming up too with football. So we still have a lot of team interviews to conduct, and we're going to be doing a lot more draft coverage and free agency coverage. Only a couple more weeks till free agency begins, or 3 more weeks. So we're on top of it. And that'll wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in once again here on ProLine TV, and we'll see you again next week when we go right back to signature event golf with the Arnold Palmer Invitational.